The Cleveland Browns' time down at the Greenbrier in West Virginia has come to an end. And after 8 practices where the offense looked really, really in control of things, on the final day, the defense got their revenge and dominated. We now transition into the first preseason week as the Browns will face the New York Jets Thursday night in Canton, Ohio. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things to O-Pound LGB and the LLB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you at the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. As many of you know, now my 7th season here with Locked On Browns. For all the new listeners, appreciate you for jumping in here. Obviously, all the excitement here. Another Cleveland Browns season gets underway. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube page. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. We've talked about the offense here, and look, it had been a great first 7 practices, but eventually, time to pay the piper was going to come, and today was that day. It started early. Myles Garrett blowing off the ball, just destroying offensive tackles the way we've seen Myles Garrett do in the past. It had Jedrick Wills in one of those odd still photos of where we have Jedrick Wills either standing still in motion or we have Jedrick Wills looking in the wrong direction. Even though the coaches let the plays extend, meaning these plays would be sacks, and I think the count was about 6 or 7 that the Browns defensive line would have had today. Even though they let the plays extend, Deshaun Watson still wasn't able to get completions. The secondary had a fantastic day. Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo, and this is where things got a little, out of hand. First things first, if it went 8 practices before you start getting skirmishes, that's actually pretty good. It is really good. Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo blew past James Hudson for what would have been a would-be sack. And then, if you all remember, if you had a sibling, when your parents weren't looking, you always wanted to be one to get the first shot in. So the second one would come chasing after and your parents would discipline that one. Well, nobody's looking, and he kind of gave a little whack to the head of James Hudson, just reminding him just of how bad he had beaten him on the rep. James Hudson lost it. James Hudson chases after him, starts throwing punches. Look, any type of camp with football involved, and I'm sure this goes on with other sports, but I'm not going to speak about it because, again, it wouldn't be firsthand experience. If you go through any type of camp in football and you can get through it without throwing a punch at a teammate, without wanting to kill a teammate, without a teammate wanting to kill you, God bless you. There is no more menacing factor than being out in the extreme heat, putting on pads day after day, taking a pounding. Eventually, you just lose it. It's just the way it goes. And for the Browns to go this long, probably impressive on that front. But then it led to, obviously, Tyrone Whitley Jr. getting injured in a second skirmish. He actually was taken inside, and that's where Kevin Stefanski obviously kind of lost it a little bit. Understanding the heat, understanding the frustration, understanding everybody tired, everybody getting beaten up on. You can't be throwing punches. And first things first, throwing a punch on a football field is the stupidest thing to do. Where are you going to land one? I mean, everybody's padded everywhere. If you're going to throw a punch at a helmet, most likely you can break a hand. You want to grab somebody, wrestle them to the ground, try to choke them. That's one thing on a football field. But throwing punches is just dumb. It doesn't lead usually to anything productive. It's just, really, really dangerous. And then they go a couple more reps, and they got to go with this awkward team photo on the field where everybody's kind of aggravated and agitated with each other. And the worst part is you got to get on a plane and fly home. So they're certainly made for an awkward ending here. Coach was smart, kept everybody in shells today. There was no reason 2 days in a row in pads. They said the heat was a little bit more this morning, so there was no sense to continue going that route. Secondary was all over the field today. I'm going to get to the secondary a little bit in depth here, kind of like we did yesterday with the offense, kind of giving just basically a little rundown on everybody up until this point. But the defense, again, the defensive line looked good, looked solid. There were a few instances. Deshaun Watson had a great ball to Deshaun Watson that somehow miraculously got through Jeremiah Usu-Koromoa, who actually looked at his hands after the play like, what just happened here? Absolutely blown away. Nick Chubb had a huge run. And again, no pads, so obviously, a little bit easier, to break through. But, as far as, the defense overall, they were on top of everything, batting balls down, obviously would be sacks to the quarterback. And it's going to be interesting here now because, look, you're on the way back to Cleveland, Ohio. You have tomorrow off. You'll have a practice on Tuesday. Then we shift down to Canton. Shift to Canton for the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. Then obviously the Joe Thomas enshrinement into the NFL Hall of Fame on August 5th, which should be, it's just an incredible moment for this franchise. A franchise that doesn't have a lot of big moments. This is one that this franchise can truly relish. And for these young guys, look, it's not what it used to be, as far as, and I know all you guys know, all you longtime listeners and all you longtime Cleveland Browns fans know, there wasn't much glory in going to play for this franchise. But now, you're putting Hall of Famers out there. You've got all pro players like Joe Bitonio, all pro players like Myles Garrett, a little bit of a different stigmatism to this franchise right now. But, Myles Garrett, and this is where it's all going to be. And, I doubt we'll see Myles Garrett for preseason rep, nor should we. But he's the engine that starts it all. And now once teams say, oh, look, we got to chip him. Oh, man, we got to straight up double team him. We might have to double team him and chip him. And then you get to Dalvin Tomlinson. You get to Ogmenaya Okoronkwo. You get to Zadarius Smith. All the other depth on this defensive line. And that's where things are going to get really, really hairy for, the opposing team. Because Myles still commands just as much attention as he always has. But unlike last year, where your second leading sack getter totaled 3 sacks, the Browns have brought in 2 players who combined for 15 sacks last year in Zadarius Smith and Ogmenaya Okoronkwo. There is a lot of length to this defensive line now. So it means you're either going to have to hope your offensive lineman can handle Myles Garrett and better in one-on-one situations, or you're going to take the gamble of Myles versus a double team, which he wins those as well, and one-on-ones with everybody else. And obviously these guys have proven track records that they have won these matchups as well. So for the defense, it was a really needed day. And now a little chance to relax, get home, get comfortable. Tomorrow off, Tuesday back to the facility, then to Canton for all of this. So a good day for the defense, who had been taking their lumps up until this point, and certainly needed it. And again, we harp on this, we emphasize this. The Browns defense needs to be right out of the box come week 1. It's Cincinnati, it's Pittsburgh, Tennessee, who knows? But then it is obviously the Baltimore Ravens. Then it is the San Francisco 49ers, and miraculously Brock Purdy is 100% in training camp, and I absolutely have no idea how that works. The guy's elbow blew apart in late January, and all of a sudden he's ready to go in August. So I don't know how Tommy John affects a quarterback as opposed to how it affects a regular Major League Baseball player, a pitcher in Major League Baseball. I don't know how any of it works, but the fact that Brock Purdy is going to be ready to go week 1, most likely, is just astounding to me. But this is the importance of this defense and rallying on time, is they got to be ready to go. And normally you say new defense, new system, new defensive coordinator, a lot of new players. You understand it's going to be a slow maturation process. The Browns are not going to be able to afford that this season. So hopefully this was a good step up the mountain here of this defense showing worthy and being ready to go week 1 at home when they do face the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to switch it up here. We're going to talk to secondary because there's really, really good battles between the skill players and the secondary players, albeit anybody who was covering David Njoku, because they just ain't got a prayer. But the secondary's got some really, really good reps. And again, this is going to be important as well here as you start to move towards week 1. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. I appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. We continue here, your latest Locked On Browns. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Now, we continue on here, and we're talking about the secondary. And even though there hasn't been a lot of Amari Cooper yet, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore are getting these guys work, are getting these guys the work they need. Even though Juan Thornhill took a huge pass breakup. Anthony Schwartz had a step on him. Juan Thornhill is a 4-4 guy, so it's not that crazy that he can kind of keep up with a guy like Anthony Schwartz, but he was able to get there just in time. Big pass breakup. Juan Thornhill starting to get comfortable here with his new teammates in his new surrounding. And hopefully this is the free safety that this franchise has been looking for many, many years. But we get to Ward, Newsome, Emerson, even A.J. Green, even Thomas Graham. All these guys have had their moments, okay? They have really looked good. That rep yesterday that everybody got so excited about with Elijah Moore. Look, he caught the ball at the 4-yard line on what was a goal line drill. Denzel Ward wins that. And also credit to Elijah Moore because Elijah Moore basically caught the ball and saved a would-be interception because Denzel Ward was all over it. But as we talk about, with the Cincinnati Bengals week 1, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, these inter-practice matchups of Moore and DPJ and Cooper versus Ward versus Newsome versus Emerson, they're vital. These guys need all these reps right now. They've got to be ready to go. It's going to be a big matchup, and somebody is going to be on the wrong side of 0-1 after week 1. Maybe down there in Cincinnati, it won't be as big of a deal because his team is the 2-time defending AFC North champions. But if it is 1-0, a little bit up north in Cleveland, Ohio, everybody's going to maybe start to feel a little bit more real about what the expectations are for this team this season. I keep going back to Juan Thornhill and Grant Delpit. These two guys, you see the communication right away. It's a lot of, and you just see it. It's hand, boom, hand. Simple, which means Jim Schwartz is not bogging them down with assignments. So it's basically either I got him and you got it. It's one or the other. So you see a lot of an easier communication gap. And then these guys are able to get settled, get into a stance, have their eyes focused. It's not a late switch as the ball's being snapped. They are working in the way they need to be. Grant Delpit obviously took to a media presser. And he's talked about, what we talk about when we talk about Grant Delpit. Obviously, all of rookie year 1 washed away with the ACL. Then a slow start in year 2, but a big finish to year 2. Year 3, kind of the same start, a little bit of a slower start. But by the time the season went on, big year. Grant Delpit now in year 4, final year of his rookie deal, looking to see what's going to be there for him after this season, whether it's in Cleveland, whether it's somewhere else, starting to talk about, I want to put together a complete season. Grant Delpit was a 5-star recruit coming out of Texas when he went to LSU. Grant Delpit should have been a first-round pick. Other than a few games he played his final season in Baton Rouge on a bad ankle that a lot of people wanted to ding him for. And my thought process was he was out there. He did the best he could. He could have saved draft stock and said, I'm not taking this field again until I'm 100%. Obviously, the team was in the midst of a national championship run. You're not going to do that to your boys, to your coaches, to your university. So Grant Delpit looking to have this full, complete year 4 and, trying to find a way to cash in for himself here, in after his rookie deal. Again, whether it is here with the Cleveland Browns, whether it does lead to the fact that maybe Grant Delpit moves on. But a player like Grant Delpit getting there and starting to show really well. DeAnthony Bell is a guy who's probably kind of gotten lost in some conversations today. Huge play today. Little option play to Nick Chubb. And DeAnthony Bell, you can kind of play him, sending him back doesn't do anything. You almost play him as an on-the-line strong safety, almost play him sort of like a linebacker. If it's in front of DeAnthony Bell is a pretty strong football player. Beyond that, it's kind of hard to figure out what his position is, but it blew up a potential option play today with Nick Chubb. It's a really impressive job by DeAnthony Bell and a guy here who's hanging right around that fringe of, does he have a possibility of making this team, or could it end up being a possible practice squad season for DeAnthony Bell, if not playing for somebody else? But, you've had Ward, and he's looked really, really sharp here. And look, I know Elijah Moore's getting some completions on him, but a lot of these Denzel Ward is right there, right in his hip pocket. And some of it is just more perfect ball placement from the quarterback, which is leading to Denzel Ward not getting a PBU or an interception. But Denzel Ward has really, really been, basically in the hip pocket of every receiver up until this point. Greg Newsome, and whether it's been inside, whether it's been outside, he had a big pass breakup today. Probably should have been an interception. Again, a player here who has not had an NFL interception to this point yet. But the new number, then maybe the confidence this is coming from this new defensive coordinator, and maybe more of just the honesty about the way it's going to work. Look, you're going to be asked to go inside, but I do want you to be able to play inside. And I think the fact that Greg Newsome, it's just being told to him, it's coming from a more honest approach. It's coming from I think this defense is going to be really good, son, so you want to be a part of it. So whatever spot you get to play, you want to be on this field. So I think Greg Newsome, for him, maybe in a little bit better place than maybe say where Greg Newsome was 6 months ago. New number, new attitude, new vibe. Greg Newsome has looked really, really good. Martin Emerson. And there's a lot of people who want to contact me. And usually one of the big questions I have, obviously people who cover other teams, is a lot of them want to talk about Martin Emerson. And they want to talk about the type of player, Martin Emerson is. And I think he was, we talk about it, he was outstanding last year. And I don't think anybody saw it coming. Certainly the amount of playing time Martin Emerson got last year, I don't think anybody saw it coming. And we got to see it all right off the bat, obviously down in Jacksonville. The incredible, pick six. You just kind of get an idea of the special talent that is within this guy. But long, lean, obviously able to get his hands, very handsy, whether it's physical, hands in the passing lane. And, of course, a very willing tackler, smart tackler, willing to get his nose dirty and light some players up. Martin Emerson, sky is the limit. It really is. And the Browns right now are just, have just an embarrassment of riches at the cornerback position. Even still, when you talk about players like A.J. Green, Thomas Graham has been outstanding as a backup nickel all camp. And then we'll get to start to see, obviously, players like, Cameron Thomas, obviously a little bit more. I'm assuming that guy's going to play a lot, obviously, Thursday night against the New York Jets. So Brown's secondary here to this point has shown out and shown pretty well. I know the highlights, make it feel like the Browns' skill set is destroying them. And to be fair, up to this point, they kind of have been. But there have really been some good moments for this Browns secondary, and they need it because, you want to be going into that Week 1 matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals with a lot of confidence, knowing what that skill group can do. And, look, until I hear, and I think Joe Burrow's going to play Week 1. I think we all believe that. But the two things that should happen before that, Joe Burrow, if I were you, do nothing until you have a new contract. Do not take a snap. Do not put your helmet on. Nothing until you have your contract. And then obviously just be smart and make sure that Week 1 is your goal. Hey, as much as I'd like to see him take that week off, be back at Week 2 for the Cincinnati Bengals, you got to figure you're getting the man. And Joey B, he's obviously been a beast up until this point. So we'll see where it works out here as he nurses that calf injury here over the rest of the summer. We're going to get to a little bit more here as we start to shift to, obviously, it's going to be a game week here. We're going to get ready here in New York. Jets Thursday night in Canton, Ohio. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. Appreciate everybody for being here. Stick along for the final and third segment. Final and third segment. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. Been 7th season now hosting Locked On Browns here with you all. So for all the new listeners, appreciate you for jumping on in here. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Join the everyday crowd. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen. Always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Starting to get a little leakage here from Coach Stefanski about maybe what the initial plan is. Browns, of course, with the extra preseason game this year, as the Browns will have Joe Thomas inducted to the Hall of Fame. The New York Jets will have Darrelle Revis and Joe Klecko inducted to the Hall of Fame. So it made zero, obviously it was a slam dunk as far as, what two teams were going to meet here in the Hall of Fame game this year. And of course, New York Jets are going to be on the schedule week 17. Kind of seems like the Jets and the Cleveland Browns is kind of like homecoming now. Somehow, some way, they always find a way that they are on each other's schedule every single season, of course. So it doesn't look like any starters are playing. So I think, it's kind of obvious. It looks like we're going to see a lot of Kellen Mond, and we're going to see a lot of the rookie Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Kudos to me for actually saying the young man's name correct for once. But actually, when we talk about what went out of practice today, and obviously a very difficult day for the offense, one of the lone bright spots was young rookie quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson. 2 touchdown passes to Dalen Baldwin, had a touchdown run as well. It believes the work he's going to get is going to be extensive here, so maybe it looks like Kellen Mond's going to start. And, this might just be, for Kellen Mond, it's a token. It's an opportunity to maybe get a little film out there. Hopefully there's going to be an opportunity for him somewhere else here, because Josh Dobbs and, of course, Dorian Thompson-Robinson are going to be the 2 quarterbacks that make this roster. And, again, I'm going to continue to talk about this with DTR. I believe the path is there, that he could be the backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns sooner than later. Again, don't ever want to see anybody play the old Tom Moore line. Well, if he's not practicing, and we don't practice. That's exactly what you feel here. You don't ever want to see your backup quarterback. But I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson, it's going to be trending more towards, him. We had talked about Jerome Ford. This is 2 straight practices now that Jerome Ford has missed. Jakeem Grant as well. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is there. Wish both young gentlemen, obviously, hope everything is okay with both guys. So you got to figure Jerome Ford at this point probably going to be a no-go Thursday as well, which means you're going to get a lot of John Kelly action. You're going to get a lot of Hassan Hall, perhaps a lot of Demetric Felton. And, then you look at the reserve receivers, your Dalen Baldwins, your Cedric Tillmans, Harley, all these guys, going to get a big opportunity to play, against the Jets. The Jets, it's not like we're going to see Aaron Rodgers. We'll probably see a lot of Zach Wilson. I'm not exactly sure what the Jets' plan is with Zach Wilson at this point, as they're going to have him here in this odd position of, being the high draft pick that he was. It hasn't worked out. And now basically, fetching Aaron Rodgers coffee. So a really weird situation is that. I did want to do just a little bit of this here, and maybe we'll give it the, the Wizards of West Virginia, guys who showed out really well here through these first 8 practices. And I will say Deshaun Watson, everything I've seen, Deshaun Watson has looked really good. And again, whether it's getting acclimated with the system, and obviously it's changed, it's getting acclimated now to all this talent he has around with him, getting on a better place with Coach Stefanski, as he truly now is the number 1 quarterback. It was such an awkward situation the way it all worked out last year, because he was so late into this game as far as getting to play for this team, after the first 11 game layoff. But Deshaun Watson had a really nice 8 practices down in West Virginia, showed out really well. I'd say second is just going to say Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore's been just an absolute beast for 8 practices. You're starting to see every reason why maybe he was agitated and aggravated by what went on in New York. And, you go through the New York Jets footage. There were so many plays where he was open, so many plays where the ball didn't even bother coming his way. And now here with a team that desperately wanted him, a team that had a role waiting for him. They just needed the guy. Now they got the guy. You see whether it's out of the backfield, jet motion, they are doing everything they can to find ways to get the ball in the hands of Elijah Moore. And it looks like this team is going to be handsomely rewarded for this move that they made for the young receiver, formerly of Ole Miss, of course, and the New York Jets. David Njoku. And I'll continue to say this. The sky is the limit. David Njoku can put up big numbers. The problem is you're not going to devote the amount of targets to David Njoku that is Travis Kelce gets. He's not the main point of the offense. He's a real big focal point of the offense, but he's not the main point of the offense. But when he gets going, and DW likes his tight ends, Deshaun Watson likes his tight ends. You got to remember, our old buddy Darren Fells had some really good numbers with Deshaun Watson. So the opportunity for David Njoku to show out this year with 17 games of Deshaun Watson is there. He's just an absolute menace. He's so big. He's so strong. He's so quick. He's so athletic. He's an absolute mismatched nightmare. So for David Njoku, good, really good on his part. Not making the team, but honorable mention. Harrison Bryant. Again, everything thrown to him. Harrison Bryant continues to catch. Defensive side of the ball, I mentioned Thomas Graham, and a feisty guy, a very chirpy guy, and you guys know how much I love that in my defensive backs. But he's done a really nice job, backing up in the nickel, which makes an opportunity if one of the outside corners is out. You're going to need somebody to go to that nickel. Thomas Graham could be that guy. Perhaps it could be rookie Cam Sutton. But Thomas Graham has had a really, for a solid week down in West Virginia. Let's see if he can transition that into success here in the Hall of Fame game in the weeks to come. Martin Emerson, I don't know if I'm going to say he's got number one cornerback potential. But when you've got that size, you've got that length, you've got that physicality to your game, you can be a willing tackler. A lot of that usually translates to, you have the ability to be a team's number one cornerback. And it's been a steal to this point with Martin Emerson and what they've gotten out of him. Just a special, special player, a special, special talent. He's really getting it done for this team. And I think the better he gets is also because of the competition within that room. You see Denzel Ward make a play, you want to make a play. You see Greg Newsome make a play, you want to make a play. So I think that's really a spot where you're starting to see a lot out of Martin Emerson. And I think a lot of it is also the realization within himself that, hey, I can be this good in the NFL. I am trending in that direction. And there's always that confidence factor when you first get into the NFL. And once you start to feel it and you hear it with your own mind and you believe it yourself, it just allows you to grow and grow into a player. And Martin Emerson's really, really been fun. And just a little dark horse here, Jordan Kunasek.
Really thought just brought back as a special teamer. He's starting middle linebacker. He's done a really, really good job with it. He's going to play a bunch of specials. Obviously Adams out for a while. Who knows? That's really going to affect his roster spot here. But it also helps, though, when your defensive coordinator is rocking your jersey. And for Jordan Kunasek, that has been the case. Jordan Kunasek's been a really, really nice week here. Does play with a little bit of a physical style. He was a player I liked last year in the preseason and the limited time he got during the regular season. So shout out to all those guys. First day practices in the books. All those guys look really, really solid. We're transitioning here. It is a game week. Beginning of preseason football. I'm geeked. I'm excited. I cannot wait for Thursday night. We'll be here every single day on Locked On Browns. We'll have an episode up right after the Hall of Fame game ends, so make sure you stick around for all that. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day, whether it is on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, of course, Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.